Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in today for another great V100 show brought to you by Veeam Community as always. I am Madalina Cristil, your host today, in charge of Veeam Community Strategy and Operations, and I am joined by two awesome guests today. Matthias, he's not new to the show, and David, he is a little bit new to the show. So I'm going to start with David and I'm going to ask him to introduce himself since this is his first time in the show.
Thank you very much for the brief introduction. David Domask. I am currently product analyst on the product management team here at Veeam. Prior to that, I worked in support for 7 years. So yeah, just kind of know product top to bottom and happy to be here. So
I think it's great to have you as well. Matthias?
Yeah, my name is Matthias Beller. I'm working for Advanced UniByte since 10 years now. We are a system integrator, and I normally do projects around NetApp, storage projects, and Veeam. And I'm in the 4th year of the Vanguard program.
Time flies. But yeah, great to have you both in this show. Thank you once again for accepting my invite. And as you notice, we have product management with us today. So this is a special edition because we don't usually do that. But in this show, we are trying to show you how, go through a relevant example on how product teams and our Veeam community interlock and, improve our solutions time after time, year after year. So I'm really looking forward for this conversation today. And we all know that the best technical discussions don't happen on stage, right? We kind of know that, right? It's always breakfast, it's always a lunch, it's always a dinner or a glass of wine. Why not? So last year at V100 Summit in Prague, which is our annual community event, where we have our V100 members and our VUG leaders and, a lot of advocates from the community invited. Matthias actually raised, what seemed to be a reasonable question from my point of view. He said, if I can manually deploy Rocky Linux, configure Fibre Channel, and Veeam supports it, then Veeam Infrastructure Appliance should support it too, right? That's what you asked, Matthias, right? Did you?
That's correct.
Okay, so I think the answer wasn't quite that simple, but I'm going to actually want to hear it all from you. And how did that conversation go? And where it led, because this is the topic of today. So you're gonna tell us all the story today. You're gonna explain what was behind it. You're gonna share the things, how it evolved since then. And I'm sure already everyone is like, oh my God, just talk about that discussion that took place in Prague. But before we are jumping in it, just give me 1 second to invite you, to chat with us, to ask questions. Tell us where you from in the chat, and we'd really love to see you engaging with us today. Ask all the questions I'm sure there's going to be, and let us know your opinion about the topic today. But no further ado, David, Matthias, the floor is yours. Tell us all about the story.
Okay, perfect. Then I take over. Before we start, I have a little agenda for today. You already told us how the story started. In the second point, we go to touch what is the Veeam Infrastructure Appliance, just to get on the same information level. The important point is this testing process. And at the end, David will tell us something about the upcoming VI improvements in the next version. So as you already told our listeners, this was a breakfast talk at the V100 Summit in Prague. And to be honest, I thought, okay, it should be supported. It must be supported. And the reality is the feature of using this Veeam Infrastructure Appliance as a traditional Fibre Channel proxy is not officially supported or was not officially supported. And yeah, this was the starting point of this conversation. After this, on that day, I met David and we discussed a little bit about this. And yeah, let's see where we ended with this discussion. Before we start over, I give the word to David just to tell our listeners, yeah, what is this Veeam Infrastructure Appliance?
Yeah, thank you. Just for some context for everyone, since we've talked about it worked on Rocky, so it must work on the appliance, the Veeam Infrastructure Appliance, and actually the Veeam Software Appliance as well, which we'll cover in a second. Basically, these are Veeam managed appliances. We support and build them, we harden them, handle all the updates for not only security, but also the packages on them, as well as our own software. The whole idea is basically that we need something that Veeam takes care of. You just deploy it and it just works, hopefully. So we built these appliances on Rocky Linux. It's very nice. It's quite convenient, quite stable, and we've had really good experiences with it. So that's kind of where I think the question came from. If it works on vanilla Rocky, why can't it work on the appliance? The appliance really is just kind of our workhorse here. And for those customers who are wanting to have everything just kind of taken care of for them, you use the appliance. It can handle things like just all of the proxy roles, basically getting data and actually pulling the data from the source for backup here. It can be our nice hardened repository, just a very secure repository, hardened to ridiculously secure standards. Just tons of different options that we can do with it, including in our upcoming 13.1, the application backup repository, which is a very nice little feature that we will hopefully have very soon. Not hopefully, but it is coming. Basically, the whole idea here is that it's zero configuration, and rather than you needing to be a Linux expert to manage all of these nice things, you just click a button, deploy it, and you're good to go here. Now, the thing, though, is that because it's an appliance and because it's locked down and managed, pretty much what you get with the appliance is what you get. No bells, no whistles, no features. You don't really want to get in there and do anything through the shell because just it's really against the design here. So that's why when we had the question come up, hey, if it works on Rocky, why can't we do it on the VAA? Well, it ended up kind of being a good question. Can we actually do it? So hence some testing and a lot of research, and I will pass it back over to you to talk about what that research looked like.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. This was my first test because after discussion with the Veeam colleagues, yeah, the task was easy. So Veeam told me if you're able to use a Fibre Channel proxy with multipathing, because in a SAN environment, you normally always have multipathing without any additional tools or installations, yeah, there's a good chance that the Veeam Infrastructure Appliance will also support it. So it was easy. I take a hardware rack server in our lab. I took all our Fibre Channel equipment and I just installed the plain Rocky 9.2. I enabled multipathing. I restarted the daemon and yeah, surprise, it worked. So from this point of view, my job was done. And my idea was, okay, let's directly switch to Infrastructure Appliance because if it's working, let's see what we can do with the appliance, maybe outside the supported way, or let's see where are the limits. And this is the installation wizard for this Veeam Infrastructure Appliance. And I decided to go with option 2 here because it's designed for being a proxy, for example, with iSCSI, and also in iSCSI environment, it's common to have multipathing. So I decided to take this point just to make sure that multipathing is already enabled out of the box here. So I did the installation with this, and I mapped my Fibre Channel LANs directly to the appliance, and I installed the VMware proxy role to this appliance, which also worked fine without problems. And surprise, I got to root shell of this appliance, and because multipathing was already there, I had really to configure nothing, 0 on this appliance. I just see my LAN from my NetApp system, and yeah, it just works. Then, okay, I was interested in, okay, that's the configuration part, but yeah, now it's time for a test backup. So what about testing the backup? I did multiple tests with direct sign setup with my mapped LAN, but every test fails. I always got this error, unable to allocate proxy resources, and all proxies are offline. So a default message there where you can get in really often in scenarios, but I didn't get it working. then I thought about what can I do to maybe resolve this, or maybe backups with storage snapshots are an option. And because it was a NetApp system, I normally thought I would have a really flat test setup there, and I don't need this NetApp integration. But because it was there, I decided to add this NetApp management interface to Veeam. And after this, I had my storage system there. I also saw my LON and my data store there. And as you can see, small spoiler here, Veeam did Veeam things, and this below is an output from the NetApp command line. As expected for block storage, Veeam is also doing some volume clones to give me the backup data. And surprise, surprise, there's where the title from this session today come. Veeam just works. Also, I like this retro icon or this retro logo from Veeam, so that's the reason for putting it in here. And you can see in this screenshot, it used my backup proxy. It's transferred from the storage snapshot, and this IP address you can see here, it was the infrastructure appliance. So I proved that it's running, just out of the box. In the meantime, I had a lot of conversations with David and his colleagues to figure out why Direct SAN does not work. And now, surprise, surprise, I got a hint from David. To be honest, I would never get to this idea why this helps. So I need this hint. Maybe David can tell us why we need this.
I can actually explain that here. So basically, the solution here was that we had to choose manual data store selection for the proxy. Within Veeam, you have two options. You can basically either tell it by default to just automatically figure out where the data stores are, and Veeam will do it, so zero configuration. But there are certain situations where this is maybe not desirable in larger environments because the interaction with the proxy does add some load sometimes during rescans, because it has to go through and figure out everything that's on these LUNs and such. So you might not want that, and you need to sometimes tell it use this one specifically. The automatic selection, believe it or not, there's actually a little bit more magic to that than you may understand at first here. It's not just go through and pick and hope. There's actually a lot of guessing and matching and some pretty, I'm not going to say complex, but there's some work that needs to be done to figure it out. So frankly speaking, the only reason I thought of this is because it's the classic solution where if automatic selection is not working, just pick the data stores explicitly. That way, instead of the algos having to work or something or whatever magic it's doing in the background, it just knows go right here and do it. And it's pretty much the same reason that the backup from storage snapshot worked, because we create and call and know which snapshots we have here. We don't need to guess. We know exactly what to ask for, and we get it exactly. So.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for the explanation. Yeah, backup from storage snapshot is always my preferred way, to be honest. But in this scenario, I thought, okay, the less complexity I have there, it's better. And but with this hint from David, hey, give it a try. Maybe you select it manually. It could work then. I did, and it worked. So we resolved this after some discussions and log exchange for qualifying all of this. Also, the question came up, what about restore? Because it's always a common way to do restores using the SAN protocols. And what should I say? It just worked. It worked out of the box. You don't have to select something manual there. It worked out of the box, and that's the proof here. And I did this SAN restore. So a small summary here, just to give you an overview about the timeline and what we did. It was about 12th of December, where I sent the email to David and his colleagues and say, hey, I tested something, that's my output, and let's speak about it. And this ended in, let's say, some internal discussions with all these results, and they go back to the office and said, okay, we had to look about the logs and something like that. And at the end of the February, I had a proof of concept at the customer side. The customer has Fibre Channel, the customer has Veeam, and was interested in don't have manually installed Linux servers. If it's possible, he wants to use appliance everywhere. And this was the reason for this proof of concept. We come back to this point later when we get about the hardware requirements for the Veeam Infrastructure Appliance. But yeah, what should I say? It was a different server vendor, different storage vendor. And yeah, we just deployed it at our customer. And yeah, it also worked out of the box. And the good thing was about end of March, I got this email here, live and transparent here, from David, where he told me, hey, okay, good news. It's now officially supported. And yeah, that's the result of this work. And some days later, also the user guides are reflected these changes. And I just put the links in here. If you go to these user guides and looking for details, there are also notes for, hey, you need to manually select the data store, and these results and hints are in the help center today. And moving this over, I said we come back to some things of the Veeam Infrastructure Appliance. I give the word to David.
Thank you. Yeah. So just a little follow-up specifically on the manual data store selection. We're going to have lots of improvements coming for the infrastructure appliances, which I'll talk about briefly here as in the next couple slides. But one thing I want to mention is that the manual data store selection is definitely something where we want to remove that as a requirement. We do want to get the automatic working. That's targeted for a future update. Just right now, I don't have a specific release for this one. But in the next upcoming weeks, we should be having our 13.1 update, which will bring a lot of improvements to Veeam data platform in general. But for the infrastructure appliance specifically, beyond being just a powerful workhorse, we're also adding quite a few nice little under the hood things here. We'll kind of go through this a little bit rapidly, but we're bringing things such as just right within the appliance web console itself. All the appliances have their own what's called host management console, just a web page that's hosted locally that you can see at a glance. Very simple things like the CPU, RAM, storage usage, things like syslog event monitoring and event forwarding for things like that. Prometheus node exporter, very useful for those who aren't familiar with it. Basically, it's just metrics monitoring. Probably someone in your organization who is big on monitoring will be very excited about this. So it's just standard stuff that's all there. One of the big ones that we have here, especially since before it was mentioned that we had to go into root shell to do some things, now we finally have a lot of this stuff for managing the internal storage directly in that host management console. So no more typing around in the command line, just go to the host management console and get something really, really nice here.
That's a really huge point. I waited for this and I pushed this really hard. Yeah, because I waited for this feature every time because I like to use SAN storage for repository. If you are not this small company or if you're a bigger environment, I always prefer to use SAN storage. And yeah, now it's officially possible with the next version.
Yeah, so just way more flexibility with that. And this is something that we know people have been asking for. So wasn't on initial release, but here it is in 13.1. So I think next one, please. Just a few other things here, just a little bit quicker look as to how this looks here. Attaching an iSCSI drive, it's exactly what you'd expect for those who are using iSCSI. Nothing special, nothing new there. So I think the last one should be, yes, this is a big one. So I mentioned before that one of the things with our appliances is that they're really secured by design here. Basically, not only do we have a concept of what's called security officer account, where basically specific changes to the hardware require that you have someone else approve it first. We also enforce MFA on basically everything, and it's quite secure. Too secure, in fact. However, for many environments here, lots of people were asking us and begging us, hey, please let us have some more flexibility with this here, where it's great that it's secure, but it's just too secure. There's too many prompts, too many MFAs. And in many environments, also, sometimes you're just not allowed to bring in MFA devices. So this is one of the nice big features that's coming with 13.1 is a lot more flexibility in controlling that MFA. So and I think the last slide should be, this is another big one that we had here. We mentioned for the infrastructure appliance, this is basically meant to be a workhorse. It's meant to kind of take care of everything, but the only thing it does is basically this workload processing. Previously, we had some requirements where you needed to have 2 disks, one for the system volume where all the system files lived, and then one for a data volume for miscellaneous stuff. But for an appliance, especially for like a proxy or something, you really don't need that second disk because, as we discussed just now, normally you're going to be adding storage from like these external SAN storages and such like that. So having all that requirement for 2 disks is just kind of goofy. Now in 13.1, you'd be able to do single disk deployments. So.
Yeah, and just to follow up this point, I mentioned the proof of concept at my customer. Let's say every standard one high unit server normally has 2 disks, and normally they are in a RAID 1. So logically, you're presenting one device to the infrastructure appliance, and that was not enough because the appliance expected 2 disks. And yeah, that's a problem for one high unit server normally. You have to buy something or you have to take another server. And as you mentioned, normally a proxy didn't space locally in the system. And that was one outcome also of this proof of concept that with hardware servers, if you use a virtual machine, it doesn't matter. But if you use hardware servers, yeah, it's a real pain point. So I'm really happy that you resolved this.
No, definitely. We know a lot of people are looking forward to this one. So yeah, 13.1 as soon as possible. And then just some other minor things. We're just doing some updates in the background here. So we, of course, are always trying to keep security in mind. So updating to a newer version of Rocky Linux here. This one's more about the software appliance itself, which is the backup server. Backup server and the software appliance and infrastructure appliance are very, very similar, but software appliance does quite a bit more and needs to be more secure. Previously, we did not allow hot add because of security concerns, but we found a nice solution which allows us to preserve security while also giving the benefit of this faster transport mode. And we're also trying to make stuff a little bit easier for deployment here. Currently, we mainly are kind of focused on just an ISO deployment or an OVA for VMware. We're also now releasing a appliance Hyper-V image, so that'd be really handy. And also to kind of get feedback for requests from clients with rather large real estate, we're really improving our unattended deployment options. There's actually quite a few really cool things you can do with this, basically with 0-click deployments of both the Veeam software appliance and the infrastructure appliance. There are instructions in our user guide for this, but also some of our colleagues here at Veeam have written some pretty fantastic tools to automate the process as well. So just a lot of cool things coming in 13.1. I would say more than just quality of life improvements. These are some pretty nice features. But stay tuned for 13.1. That should be out, like I said, in just a few weeks, and you'll see everything else beyond just the appliance updates. So yeah, I think that's about it from my side.
Perfect, for a good overview.
Perfect. Fantastic, guys. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, this is a great example of why the community should be part of the product journey, not just the end result, right? So I can see also the audience engaged with us, and we have one comment, one question. I think this is from Jonathan. He's asking, can the storage be converged, probably?
Converged, I think.
Yeah, converged. I think that's what he meant. Infrastructure that the hardened appliance is running one as a all-in-one appliance.
I mean, you can certainly do an all-in-one backup server for this one and that. There are some restrictions on the Veeam software appliance itself as to certain roles on it, but largely these are kind of edge cases. So yes, all-in-one deployments with the software appliance are certainly possible. So the Veeam Infrastructure Appliance, just a quick reminder that this is meant to be kind of separate and it's the workhorse for that one. So absolutely, if you wanted to put it on there, you could, but probably you would want to have like the Veeam software appliance on there. So
fantastic. Hopefully, Jonathan, we managed to answer your question. And we also have one comment from Matthias. He says, this monitor about CPU, memory, and disk on the appliance, I miss so much. Good to see that is coming. So people are happy about everything that is coming. So fantastic. Let us know. Keep on going with the questions. We're going to still be a few minutes with you. First of all, I really want to thank both of you for sharing this story with our audience. I'm pretty sure everyone appreciated. As I said, I think it's a fantastic example of how product teams and the community interlocks. And yeah, I want to bring one question for you, David. Just building on this discussion, how do you see the collaboration between product management and the Veeam community? Because I mean, I know I said few things, but how important is, the feedback loop when it comes to, shaping the future features as well as improvements?
Oh, I mean, it's quite important. I mean, basically, we can only do so much in the lab is pretty much how I'll summarize it. Like we can have our specific equipment, we can do our specific tests, and we know how we think stuff should be done or what to expect. But like the community, you're out there, you have actual paying customers who have products that they need to support and environments that they need to keep running. So like this kind of feedback is always really useful. So when we get feedback like this saying like not only just, hey, I have customers who want like this particular feature, but can also go through and say, I have this many customers, they are running this, and this hardware, and I'm ready to do some tests and they're ready to go if we can help get support for this. I mean, that helps us a ton here. So honestly, these voices are always important. We do take the feedback seriously, both that we have on our R&D forums and on the community forums. We do watch them, we check them pretty frequently here, and it just helps us to kind of understand, what's reality versus what's in our labs. So like we rely on it a lot.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that answer, David. And now I'm going to take Matthias back to Prague to V100 Summit. Back to that conversation. Did you expect it to spark this discussion? And also, like, did you kind of expect to lead you to this point, to where actually you have a project, you have improvements, product management listen to you and they built on it. And what would you say, to the other community members that have ideas and they might have questions as well, but they might be shy or they might just not dare to come and discuss about those ideas. Do you think it's worth bringing it, and what would you advise them?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't expect this big discussion. It escalated a little bit, but in a positive way. I can always recommend all peoples to talk to your Veeam responsibility persons or go to a community, or better, if you have some requests or things, go to the Veeam forums. It's the best place for putting questions and feature requests there. And yeah, it's not the first feature request were had at Veeam, but it was more one of the complexer because of the hardware infrastructure and Fibre Channel infrastructure. And at the end, I think it was a good timeline. It was only about 3 months from testing to, let's say, official support stamp. And yeah, I'm really happy with this, and I can recommend this to others.
Thank you very much, Matthias. I can see someone asking one question. I don't know if we're going to be able to actually answer to that, but I'm going to still, can you tell us when would be GA for all these updates?
We expect it in upcoming weeks for this one. We'll have more information published on the website soon for specific dates. So, but we're expecting weeks, not much longer than that. So.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Hopefully it's good enough, but I think it's soon. That's the relevant answer. It's very soon. So stay with us. But yeah, I think this was a great conversation and a great show overall. And want to thank you once again for being part of the show today, both Matthias and David. And I want to, before we go, because we are almost close to the end of the show, I want to ask you if there is anything on your side that you would like to add.
No, not from my side. Thank you.
Okay, David, just because this was your first show, are you going to join us in the future shows?
I mean, if you invite me, sure. So, I mean, when Matthias has another feature request, sure, we'll make another show.
If David does, I will also join.
Hey, let's do it once again in Lisbon, Matthias. Think about
Perfect.
it, yeah?
We will do this.
Let's do it. Let's repeat. But yeah, I also want to say a big thank you to our audience today. And course, don't forget, join us at community.veeam.com as well. If you have feature requests, you can always go to the forums, as Matthias mentioned. And I guess we will see you next month with another special edition. That's gonna be the hackathon special edition. So August is going to be dedicated to the project that won last year. So stay tuned with us and stay awesome.